Welcome to the Lost Boys to Found Fathers podcast. I'm Gabriel O'Sullivan, and joining me is my co-host Will Haycox. We are men who have suffered the loss of a child, and through this production, we offer encouragement, strength, and hope to our fellow brothers who have traveled the same journey. Welcome, Will.
Good morning.
So this is episode 7 on Intentional Fatherhood, and I'm going to throw it over to you for us to talk about, today's topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today don't have a whole lot of notes. It's going to be a lot of topics or a lot of discussion on a couple of points here. Really, we're talking about today, what does it mean to be present and engaged? And I'm not trying to get into I'm not trying to sound too hippy-dippy, being present, being engaged, being mindful, all that. But, this series is called Being Intentional Fathers. Mm-hmm. So I think living with intentionality, as much as that's overused, overblown, whatever, become cliche these days to say, be intentional. I don't like cliches, and normally my rebellious tendencies likes me to just buck the trend just because it's a trend. So outside of that, I think there's a lot of benefit that comes from living intentionally as a father. And so just to quickly explain what I mean by that, everyone knows, hopefully if you're an adult, you can become a father by accident. Fair enough? Happens to a lot of people. And then outside of that situation, you can become a father, married, you can literally become a father by accident, or you can become a father, and I would say probably happens a lot, without really having an understanding of what it means to be a father. And I would say maybe to a certain extent, even I was that way. I wanted kids. My wife and I worked really hard to get pregnant. We did, had kids. Still, when our son was born, I was a father, but I didn't get a chance to do any fathering. So then when we had our daughter, now I'm learning, like we talked about in the last episode, we're continually learning and growing. That's why we're doing this series, is not just, to show our great wisdom to all the guys out there, but to say, these are things we need to get better at as well. So being a father, I guess being a dad, however you want to say that, isn't necessarily hard to do, but it's really hard to do well. And so I think that's kind of the point of this particular episode is, not being a dad by accident, not being a dad just because you have children. That makes you a dad or a father, but what makes you a good father? So I think one of the biggest things, in our world, maybe it's probably always been this way, but especially now in the world we live in, everything is go, go, go. We got fast food, we got fast cars. You probably heard pastors say this, so I'm probably copying it from a pastor. We got fast food, fast cars, fast women, fast everything. Everything is just constantly, I want it now. We got microwaves, we got, all this mentality of everything needs to happen as fast as possible so I can get on to the next thing. And I'm in project management, I'm in construction. That's really, to a certain extent, that's our attitude is, this trade needs to come in, pour the concrete as fast as I can so then I can build walls. I'm building walls as fast as I can so I can put plumbing and electrical in the walls. And as soon as the plumbing and electrical is in the wall that day, I'm putting sheetrock on the walls, and I'm starting to finish the sheetrock, and I'm putting paint on it, putting a ceiling grid in, I'm putting carpet down. Cool. All right, we're done. Get out of here. Go to the next project. We all made some money. And you're probably to a certain extent the same way. As a chiropractor, you want to get as many people in and out of that office as possible to make money and to help as many people as you can. And so I think and I'll be quiet here and let you speak up, but I think we struggle as a society and then as men who are go-getters with spending the appropriate or requisite amount of time on things to do them well and with our heart in them. I think a lot of times we just do things to finish them and get on to the next thing.
Yeah, and we can't have this attitude in parenting. It just can't be. We can't, we don't want to just have our kids as a part of our daily checklist, because that's just not the way that we should treat them. Now, I would say on the flip side of that, part of being an intentional father is making sure that we are actually managing our schedule appropriately, so that way our kids are on the list and our wife is on the list, right? Because as talked to DJ about this, our pastor and friend, several times, and he's got this saying that I remember him, us having this discussion 20 years ago when he started. He said one of his seminary professors said, you control your calendar or your calendar is going to control you, meaning that there's going to be other people that make demands on you or other things that make demands on you that then put your family to the back burner. And if we're not careful, we as men can allow our desire for professional growth or even personal growth to overcome us, and to then be the thing that is the driving force instead of like the development of our family. And I think we have to get to that balance there, or maybe not even. I would say maybe not even a balance, but an integration there. It's like we don't have to. It doesn't have to just be like, oh, well, I'm gonna spend some time with family and I'm gonna do some work. It could be that, hey, we bring in our kids sometimes into that work environment or into that work discussion, but most of the time it's a balance where we're having to look at our calendar and figure out, okay, when am I going to be focusing on work stuff? When am I going to be focusing on me stuff? And then when am I going to spend time with my wife? When am I going to spend time with my kids? And that's got to be blocked out. Like, we've got to be intentional about that, and it doesn't need to necessarily be rushed. Like you're sitting on a psychologist lounge, Chase Lounge, and then all of a sudden, like, it's 3:15, and then you're like, okay, kids, I've blocked out until 3:45 for us to play together. And at 3:45 the bell goes off and you're like, all right, going back, y'all go do something else, go read some books, go away, like Nacho Libre. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I mean, I guess, like, to put this in a different perspective, because it would be easy to say, like, I'm spending time with my kids, that's great, doesn't matter how I do it. Like, let's think about, like, having personal time, having intimate time with your spouse. Like, again, it's good to schedule it because you make sure you have that time. But if you walk in, maybe it works for you and your family. If so, not to mess with you and your wife's personal time. But if I texted my wife and said, all right, coming home at 5, I'll be cleaned up at 6, we can eat at 7, kids are asleep by 9, 9:15 to 10 o'clock, that's our time, better be ready, like, be on the bed, be ready, here we go. That's not going to go super well. Like, part of it, like, there's preparation, but if it's like treated as clinical and sterile and this is the only time I have for you, she's not going to be into it. It's going to be rushed. It's going to be very stressful. Like, that's just not going to be a good time and a good night for you and your wife and your marriage bed. So take that back to, like, spending time with your kids and think about it as important of a thing as building a relationship with your wife. Like you said, if all you're doing is, dang, the kids are going to bed in 45 minutes. Be great. They're going to go to sleep. Now I can rest and I can spend time with my wife. I guess I could spend 30 of those 45 minutes with them and then rush and put them to bed real quick. Like, it's not intentional. It's not relaxed. It's not fun. It's, your kids pick up on, like we talked about last episode, kids picking up on, father's habits and relationship with the Lord and things you say and how you interact when somebody cuts you off in traffic. By the same token, your kids are smart enough to know when you're spending time with them because you love them and you want to spend time with them and you want to relax and you're at ease and you're enjoying your relationship with them just like you would hanging out with a friend. And they know when you're just like, all right, kids, I got 10 minutes, like, and I'm guilty of this. Like, I watch football, I watch the NBA. Like, my wife sometimes will ask me to do something and there's an NBA game on and I'm really into the game. And I'm like, all right, at halftime I'll do that. And so halftime comes up. It seems like when I was a kid, halftime was long. Now it's like, wow, okay, game started again. So not with football. They just keep making the halftime and the commercials longer and longer and longer. But the NBA is doing okay about halftime. So I jump up, I rush, give the dog some food, I take care of the kids for a second, then I rush back down there and I sit down and I'm back to the TV. And so I think just in general, having the attitude that your kids are another item on your checklist, your wife's another item on your checklist, isn't loving. And it's better to spend time with them than not spend time with them. But back to the point, the name of this episode, like being present and engaged. It's easy to be present. It's easy to, well, depending on your work situation, it can be easy to be in the room with your kids. But kind of just something that I wanted to get on here in this episode, like a lot of us are guilty. I know I'm guilty of having my phone in my hand when I'm sitting there. You know, my daughter just got into Legos, and she's 3.5. She's not like building these 10,000 piece sets or anything, but she likes, I got her like a 100 piece set or something, and she can build it with some help, tell her put this piece here and put that piece there. And already in the week and a half, 2 weeks that she's had Legos, there have been times where like I want to build a set with her, and she doesn't want to build the set because she's 3 and she doesn't care about the set. Like, she wants to see the set, then she just wants to take the pieces apart and play with them. And I guess my brain is like ordered, like, let's just build the set and play with it. And you can have time and do whatever you want to. But if she's sitting there playing with the bricks and she won't let me help her, I might pull my phone out, and I'm sitting there scrolling through Twitter, reading about, or X, reading about the latest NBA news or something with the team I follow, or trying to read about Clemson football's summer practice or something like that. And then she's over there, we're sitting right beside each other, but she's playing with the Legos and I'm reading about Clemson, and we might as well be on opposite sides of the house. And I mean, she's even told me, and it's been convicting, there have been times when we'll be playing and she said, "Daddy, put your phone down, I want to play." And it's like, wow, she's 3 years old and she already knows I'm ignoring her for the phone. So yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, and I'll let you talk about it too, Gabe, because I guess I don't know if we're technically different generations, if so, not by much, because I don't know where the generations cut off. But like, I grew up without phones. Like, I didn't have a cell phone until I was 15 maybe, but cell phones were integrated into my life at that point, and I spent a lot of time with technology. I played video games, and all that to say, like, my 33 in a few weeks, like my age and down, I think, are definitely quote unquote addicted to technology because we're looking at it all the time. It's easy to pass time. I come into your office, and if I'm just sitting in my chair waiting, and I'm looking at my phone, killing time. And so I guess there's nothing technically wrong with killing time looking at your phone, like people for generations kill time reading a magazine or reading a newspaper. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you struggle the same way with you're hanging out with your family and you're going and sitting in the playroom with one of your kids and you got to pull your phone out too? Is it not as much of a struggle for you, or what do you think about that?
I've definitely been there. I mean, particularly if it's like, if I can't disconnect from work or some extra thing that I'm like, oh, I need to be looking at this email, and like if they're doing something that they're not engaging, wanting me to engage them in, but we're in the same room. But again, I don't think that's setting a good example for them, because what's going to happen is when they, 10 years down the road or less, when they have a phone, then I'm going to be like mad at them if they don't put their phone down and then look me in the eye and have that conversation with me. And then it's like, well, okay, what did I model 5 years ago, for them? And so I think it's all about being, like you said that about the Legos, it made me think, like, I think it's really about us being there when we're there, okay? Even if they're not wanting us to engage, it's just about being in the room sometimes. Like, for instance, my boys right now are totally into playing with wrestling action figures, like WWE, AEW, whatever. Like, they are all about wrestling. Everything's wrestling, and like every day, like they are playing wrestling figures. And sometimes they want me in the room to be their commentator, and sometimes they want me in the room, but they don't want me to be the commentator. They just want me to watch, right? But if I'm on my phone looking at something, checking email, whatever, then I'm not. They know that I'm not watching, right? And so I have really been aware of that recently. And I've just gotten to the point where, I come home, like I step inside the kitchen, and I just put my phone in this drawer and just leave it there, right? Until I have to, later when we're not having that family interaction, or sometimes, again, I'm not saying this is necessarily the greatest thing, but if we sit down and we're going to watch some, Cricket Green or something, some cartoon or whatever, then, if I'm like, okay, I don't want to care to watch this, I'm going to use this time to catch up on what's happening in the news today, or check my email or whatever. I don't think that's great for me to do that. I really don't, because now we're not engaged as a family. That'd be like us going to a movie and then me taking a book, to the movie, or like sitting there reading something on my phone with the movie. So I think it's about when we're together, let's be together, and yes, we're adults. We can't just have all of our lives be about play and about, fun and whatever, like kids often can at certain ages. So I think we have to have that delineation of like, okay, this is, daddy has to be at work, daddy has to be with mommy, and daddy has to also be with you. And when we're going to be with them, let's be with them. But also part of being with them is not just engaging them in play, but it's also engaging them in work, right? It's engaging them in community activities. We've kind of talked about that even in the past, so I'm not going to get back into that. But I think that's part of it. Like, they have to learn to work. Like, they need to learn how to manage their funds and manage their money. They need to learn how to have quiet times, as we said, how to clean up their room, how to keep their drawers straight, how to clean up a bathroom, like how to just do these tasks that are just mundane but are part of daily life. And that's us being intentional there too, and spending that time with them. And I think where do we see that modeled is best? It's in the Bible. I mean, even from initially, right? God walking with Adam and Eve in the garden, like God was with his children, right? He's with his creation. And then, that communication continues through Scripture, where God is spending time with his children, if not in person, at least through communication, at least through some person that then communicated to others through the prophets, and certainly through the law. And then we read about that communication that the psalmist has with the Lord, and that back and forth. And then, then Jesus comes, right? He comes to us and spends time with us here on earth, God on earth. And then, what did Jesus say to the disciples? He didn't say, I'm going to, he told Peter, he says, I'm going to make you a fisher of men, right? And so I was reading this yesterday, and I just bought Willie Robertson, I think the Duck Dynasty people. I just bought his new book. And he says in there something I thought was really neat. He was like, Jesus said, I will make you a fisher of men. And he was like, the point there being that Jesus recognized Peter was not a fisher of men. He was just a fisherman, right? And so Jesus was going to turn him into what he wanted him to be. And that meant he was going to have to spend time with him to teach him how to do it. It's not like you give your kid a fishing pole, okay, to continue on this fishing analogy, and just be like, all right,
go catch some
fish, right? They don't know what to do.
We're going to be hungry tonight if you don't catch anything.
Yeah, right. And so they have no idea what to do, right? So we have to teach them how to do that. And I think we see that best modeled again by the life of Christ, and how he discipled his disciples, right? He spent time with them. They were just with him like all the time. So I think it's about, like you said, being there when we're there, okay, being present when we're present, and that doesn't have to just be play. That could be a multitude of things, but we got to be there.
Yeah, and I just think, kind of wrap up, like you said, it doesn't have to be play. It doesn't have to be putting down cell phones, things like that, even though I think both those things are important. Just showing your kids that there are times of the day that are for them, that are for spending time together. I think that goes a long way, and not to get into the psychology of it, but like in showing your kids that they matter, that they're important, that their feelings matter, their emotions matter, like that they're people, and we're not expecting them to just be happy-go-lucky kids and everything's great and life is perfect and they just play with Legos and wrestle and action figures all day long and everything's great. Like they're at the age that my daughter is, biggest problem in her life might be that she lost a toy, or we have 3 dogs, one of the dogs ate one of her toys or something, like she's got to learn to keep her playroom door closed. But as they get older, they're going to have issues where, my friend lied to me, my friend wasn't nice to me, my friend took this. Get older, and there's boy issues or girl issues based on which gender, which sex your child is, and who they're interested in, and all that. But there's things that grow, the problems, the issues, the challenges you're going to have to deal with your kids grow as they get older. And if you've modeled that you care about them, you want to talk to them, and you're willing to spend time with them, then when their first boyfriend breaks their heart, or there's a boy they're interested in and they don't know what to say, they can come to you. They know they can say, Dad, this hurt. I don't know what to do. Why are these girls being mean to me? What's the issue here? And they can have those conversations with you, and you can walk them through that, rather than, we've never done anything but play, or Dad's always just been talking on the phone about work till 8 o'clock at night, doesn't care anything about me. Why would the idea of having that conversation wouldn't even cross their mind. So I think at 3 years old, where my family is, there's a lot to be gained, but as we build a pattern of spending time together, the benefit, the relationship gains, relationship growth just continues building exponentially to a point where, me and my wife can be just parents who let my daughter live in our house for 18 years and helped her, grow big and strong, or we can be models of Christ-like love and surrender, who are there and who we are her support, and walking her through all of life's struggles to the point where when she's 18, she's not just physically an adult, but she's mentally and maturity-wise, she's an adult and she can deal with life. And I think that comes with spending time together and building a relationship, rather than just sitting in the same room texting or watching videos.
That's great. It's all about those patterns that we set up now that will, again, help our relationship with them and help them have even healthy relationships themselves as they get older. And that's part of that intentionality, man. So that's a good word right there. I'm going to close with a fishing story. Talking about fishing a minute ago. So years and years ago, we grew up fishing, lake, ocean, even, or kind of harbor down at Hilton Head some, and so we go on a family trip one time, and my older brother and I, we're down in the Keys, and we were staying on this house out on this dock, and we could go to the end of the dock and see the fish. The water was that clear down there. It's so beautiful, and we could see fish swimming. We're like, man, we need to go fishing. This is going to be easy. We should just got a net. It would probably been easier, but not as fun, right? So we take 30 minutes. There's a 30-minute drive to the nearest Walmart from where we were at. So we drove 30 minutes, bought a fishing pole, got some shrimp, a bucket of shrimp for bait, come back, go down to the end of the dock, get the fishing pole out. There's no string. There's no fishing string in the thing except for this. I mean, it was literally maybe 8 inches of string was all that was in the spool. And this was a, $30 little cheap little Walmart, fishing pole that we, and of course, thought that there would be a full of the whole fishing wire.
Makes sense, yeah.
It was not. So we were like, well, we're not driving 30 minutes back to Walmart to buy some string now, or whatever, or to, sure there was probably somewhere there in the Keys we could have got some string, but closer, but we were in college. We weren't thinking that straight anyway. So we take that little bitty piece of string and we tie it on the end of the very end of the fishing pole. And because I tell you, we could see the fish, put the hook on there, get the shrimp. So we reached down the shrimp bucket and they were alive. And that was just an exciting experience right there. All the shrimp started freaking out and we trying to grab them. So that was kind of funny. I remember that. So get some shrimp, put it on the end of that hook, stick the fishing pole down in the water. First bite. Fish bites the shrimp and rips the line off of the pole. And now we have a fishing pole with no line, no hook, no shrimp.
Oops.
Now it's the end of our fishing down there in the Keys. So I don't anyway. Yeah. All right, that's enough of that. So, yeah, thank y'all for joining us today. Yeah, on the Lost Boys of Found Fathers podcast. If you need fishing advice, don't listen to this show because I have nothing to offer you.
Can we get the moral of that story?
The moral of that story is if you're going to go fishing with me, you need to have somebody else with me to help you out. Because once I get the line and stuff, I'm pretty good. Like my family gets kind of mad at me because I always win when we go fishing, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I don't know, I can't remember how to tie this bait for this fish and blah 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 and what line and lure and all that stuff. Like I'm trying to pick it up and learn. If we go with Granddaddy, we're in good shape. With my kids, they actually teach me like, Daddy, you don't need that, you need this, and I'm like, all right, cool. So it's kind of, I've probably just lost all leadership, viewership, and credentials based on me telling you that. But yeah, that's the moral of the story. If you want to go fishing, listen to a different show. But thank y'all for joining us today. Make sure you listen to us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. And certainly check out my books, Thy Will Be Done, or Every Little Thing, 6 Small Steps to Perfect Peace. You can find those where books are sold. Thank y'all for joining us today. Let's not be lost. Let's be found in Him.